To Voices of Our Fathers. Tonight's topic is dealing with the crucifixion and the resurrection. But first we must introduce my esteemed guest. To my right is...
I am Elder Shadaniah ben Israel. Shalom.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom. I am Elder Aharon ben Israel. Shalom.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom.
Shalom.
My name is Obiyahu ben Yehuda Israel. Shalom.
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 So tonight we're trying to come to grips with some of the facts regarding the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Okay.
Most of us may or may not have seen the movie The Passion of the Christ, and we were talking about that before we came on the air to do this taping. We're trying to basically see just how accurate that movie was. But we should never rely on Hollywood to give us the real story regarding something of this magnitude. So basically we are trying to get people to read more and look up things for themselves and try to do the research for themselves so they won't be deceived. Because it's easy for a person to be deceived by all the different interpretations and all the different definitions that people's shepherds or pastors or the people that are in charge of congregations, they usually give. So this is basically what these shows are about, to encourage people to read more.
Right.
And to read what's written and to go by what's written the way it's written. In a previous show, the brother has a living Bible. And in my opinion, the living Bibles are extremely dangerous. Absolutely. Because they interpret the word for you. And they use words that have nothing to do with the topic. So these living Bibles, you should try to stay away from and just try to adhere more to what was written beforehand, even if it's the these and the thous. Basically, you try to deal with it. Deal with it in the Hebrew. That's my advice, because that's the blueprint.
Very good.
So.
All right. In looking at this topic, we're talking about two different events. And there's a lot here to understand concerning these two events. First event is the crucifixion, and the second event is the resurrection. There's a lot that I feel as though we should understand. And they're not things that most people might believe or know that we should understand in order to understand these principles here or these issues that we're about to embark on. But I went over this and I thought about it, and I felt as though that we should deal with this in this way. To start with the most simple things and some basic things to help understand all of the misnomers and all of the miscalculations and the misunderstandings about the resurrection and what have you. All right. First of all, I think it is important, in order for us to understand these issues here, it is important for us to understand the true cycle of a day, because that is very important, because we're talking about events that take place in regards to his burial that refers to days. So it's important for us to understand what a day is.
Okay, very good.
in respect to the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Okay.
So first of all, let's go to Genesis, the first chapter and the first verse.
Okay.
We're going to try to build up on this thing. Start off with the small and build up so that you'll gradually understand what the truth is. Genesis 1:1, it says, "In the beginning, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yah was hovering over the face of the waters." Verse 3, "Then the Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light. And Yah saw, the Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and divided the light from the darkness." Stop right there.
Okay.
That tells us that in the beginning there was darkness.
Okay.
There was no light. So darkness existed before light as far as the creation was concerned.
Okay.
Because darkness is mentioned here in verse 2, and light is not mentioned until verse 3.
Yes, it is.
So darkness was first, and light was second.
Okay.
Fact. Verse 5. It says, "And Yah called," or the Elohim called, "the light day, and the darkness he called night." So, the light he called day, and the darkness he called night. Now, in verse 5, the first appearance of the word day here, okay, day, in terms of time, here, day consists of 12 hours. This day here consists of 12 hours. And it says, "And the darkness he called night." So when we look at the term night here, night or darkness also consists of 12 hours.
Okay.
12 hours of day, 12 hours of night equals one 24-hour solar day.
Correct.
Very good.
Now, so Elohim says, so the evening, he mentions evening first. Okay, it says, so the evening and the morning were the first day.
Very good.
Now, when it says so the evening, and he mentions evening first, because he mentions evening first, evening now attaches itself to what was mentioned first in verse 2, darkness. So evening is connected to darkness. Then it says, and morning. So morning is now second, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So since morning is second, morning attaches itself to what was mentioned second here in what? Verse 3, when it says light or day in terms of 12 hours. So it says, thus we have what? Evening and morning the first day. The last, here when it says the first day here in verse 5, that is our 24-hour solar day or solar cycle here. So, evening always comes first.
Right.
Night
it
always comes first. Morning comes second, or light comes second.
Right.
So evening is darkness, is night.
Okay. Very good.
Light is day, is morning.
Okay.
That's second. So every day always begins with what? Darkness or evening. And it ends with what? Morning. Evening, then morning.
Okay.
So when the sun goes down, we always begin a new day.
Right.
So the first part of any day is always night or evening. The second part of any day is day, light, or what we call morning.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter whether it's what we call noon, that's 12 o'clock in the morning. 1 hour later, it's 1 o'clock. But that's still 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Another hour later, that's 2 o'clock. That's still what? 2 o'clock in the morning. All right. Now we see the true cycle, and we hear the explanation of what a day is. This is the way our people, the Hebraic people, regarded a day.
Right.
Yes.
Beginning with sundown,
Right.
a new day starts, night, evening, and ending with morning or day.
Okay.
24-hour cycle. Now, you understand what a day or what the true cycle of a day really is. There's no question about that.
Right.
That is the
Evening to
way
evening.
Yah regards it. That is the way we regard it in our culture.
Right. Very good.
We don't care about what someone else regards it as,
Right.
or whether they start a new day at 12 o'clock, midnight, or whatever. We don't
Right.
regard that. That's immaterial.
Right.
What is true is this is the way Yah regards it, and this is the way we regard it as a people. All right, next thing.
Evening to evening.
Let's go to Matthew 12,
Yeah.
12th chapter.
Yeah. Right here.
We go here next because Yahushua often talked about his death in terms of how long or how many days he was going to be dead, or when he was going to resurrect or be resurrected. Okay. Matthew, the 12th chapter. Let's first look at, we begin with the 31st verse, 12:38. The subtopic here is the scribes and the Pharisees ask for a sign.
Correct. Yeah.
Verse 38 says, Then some of the scribes and the Pharisees answered, saying, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said to them, it says, An evil and adulterous generation seek after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except a sign of the prophet Jonah. 40. For Yehoshua said, For as Jonah was 3 days, 3 days, we're talking about 12-hour days. For Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights, 12-hour nights. 3 days and 3 nights. Got that? In the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days, 12-hour days, and 3 nights, 12-hour nights, in the heart of the earth.
Correct.
And we just broke down what a day is.
Right.
Two definitions of days.
Right.
Yehoshua here says, For just as the sign of Jonah was, so the sign of Jonah will be upon me, just as Jonah was in the belly of the fish, the great fish, 3 days and 3 nights. The Son of Man shall be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights.
Yeah.
Now we got that straightened out. Let's re-verify that. Let's go to Matthew, the 17th chapter.
Yep.
Matthew 17, we'll begin with 22. It says, here it says Yehoshua, subtopic here is Yehoshua again predicts his death and resurrection. Death, crucifixion, resurrection, which is our topic. It says 22, Now while they were staying in Galilee, which is a province or like a county, it says, Yehoshua said to them, The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him. Watch here. It says, and the 3rd day he will be raised. Now, what's the difference between what we just read in Matthew 12 and what we just read in Matthew 17?
just shortened it. That's all.
He said 3 days and 3 nights
And
he
tell
shall
them,
what? Be in the what? In the belly of the earth.
That's
But
right.
here it says, and the third day. It says, and the third day. And the third day
he
will be raised.
That's right.
Now you see the difference. You see the
Right.
difference here? It says, so he's telling you on the third day he's going to rise.
Correct.
On the third day.
That's
On the
what
third
he's
day.
saying.
On the third day here. And he says 3 days and 3 nights
Right.
over in Matthew 12.
Right.
All right, let's go to Matthew 20. It's right down the street here. Okay, it says, same topic as Yehoshua, third time.
Right.
Third time, that's what the topic says. Third
Right.
time predicts his death and resurrection.
Right.
20 and 17 says, now Yehoshua going to Jerusalem took the 12 disciples aside on the road and said to them, behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify. And the third day, which is what we just read in 17, and the third day he will rise again.
Right.
Yep.
All right, now, we can go on to Mark, say the same thing. It says, on the third day.
Right.
On the third day.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's give this some background. Now, we got that down. Let's give this whole thing some background. When I say background, I mean let's give it some information that was long ago before Yehoshua walked in the flesh to give us more of an accurate indication of when his crucifixion was,
Right.
and what time of the year it was,
Right.
and what day that it was.
Right.
Let's go to Exodus.
Yep.
Let's go to Exodus. And we're going to go over here to the 12th chapter of Exodus.
Yep.
Because what we need to look at here and now is we need to look at the institution of what we call Pesach or Passover.
Correct.
The reason why we need to do that is because we understand that when we were released from Egypt as a nation of people, when Yah gave us the laws, in first giving us the laws that govern Passover, the first thing that he talked about that he gave us was about the instructions on us receiving or getting or obtaining a lamb. And we see, now that we're on the other side of Yehoshua, we see that there's a direct connection between Yehoshua
Right.
and this lamb that Yah used or we used in the establishment of the what? Of the Passover in the
right.
covenant.
Correct.
All right. Here. Verse 1, chapter 12 of Exodus. Topic here is the Passover or Pesach instituted. It says, now Yah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, this month shall be the beginning of months. Okay, all right. This month shall be the beginning of months. Okay, now so we see that the first month of the year, Passover, was to be incorporated in this particular time of the year because this is Yah's will.
Correct.
Now the name of this month is called Abib, A-B-I-B, Abib. And the name means green ears.
Right.
Because it is the coming in of a new year and the coming in of new life upon the earth.
Correct.
It says, this month shall be the beginning of your months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Later on, we're going to see that this lamb that we're talking about, or Passover that we're talking about, is going to be incorporated in this first year.
Okay.
And we're gonna look at that real careful. It says, first of all, it says here, it says, speak to the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb. Now, if you know this, you know, if you understand what we're trying to say here is, Yehoshua was the sacrificial lamb.
Correct.
When we look back here, when Yah instituted the Passover, Yah here is telling us or explaining to us that we were to go out and obtain a sacrificial lamb that was going to be what? Sacrificed on the 10th day of the first month. And on the 10th day of the first month, this lamb was to be in the midst of the people who were going to what? Eventually kill this lamb.
Right.
We're going to see this in a second right here.
Okay.
So on the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for this lamb, which is also what? A pre-representation of Yehoshua, let him and his neighbors next to the house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make count for the lamb. Your lamb is to be without blemish. Right. Oh, your lamb is to be without blemish because Yehoshua was to be the sacrificial lamb without what? Without sin or without defect.
Right.
So the lamb, we see more information here, more things here that's connecting Yehoshua as what? This lamb.
Right.
A male of the first year. Yehoshua was a male. It says, you may take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. So 4 days later, you may keep it until 4 days later. Why? Because what are we going to do? Well, let's read right here. Now you shall keep it again until the 14th day of the same month. Then what? Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight. So this sacrificial lamb that was used initially when Yah instituted the what? The Pesach or the Passover was to be crucified or killed or sacrificed on the 14th day of the first month at a time or a period of that day called twilight.
Right.
All right, now. Now let's go over to the New Testament where Yehoshua is now here on this earth in the flesh. And let's see how the events that, or the things that he did now coincided with the initiation here of Pesach.
But before you go there, let's read something here.
Okay.
Turn to John,
Okay.
the first chapter.
Alrighty.
And I'm going to start reading at the 19th verse.
419 over 119.
John 1:19. It says, and this is the record of John, when the Yahudim sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who art thou? And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not Hamashiach. And they asked him, what then art thou, Elijah? And he said, I am not. Art thou that prophet? And he said, and answered, no. Then said they unto him, who art thou, that we may give an answer to them that sent us? What sayest thou of that thyself? He said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the master, as said the prophet Isaiah. And they which were sent were of the Pharisees. And they asked him and said unto him, Why baptize thou, if thou be not Hamashiach, or Christ, nor Elijah, neither that prophet? Yochanan or John answered them, saying, I baptize with water, but there standeth one among you who ye know not. He it is who comes after me is preferred before me, whose shoe last I am not worthy to unloosen. These things were done in Bethsaida, beyond Jordan, where John was baptizing. Then it says, the next day John seeth Yehoshua coming unto him, and said, Behold, the Lamb of Elohim, which taketh away the sin of the world. This is what you were talking about
Right.
when you went backwards to Exodus. But what people must understand is that Passover or Pesach is a sacrifice. And notice it said between the evenings.
Right.
Huh?
Twilight.
So between the twilight. Passover is not a day. It's not a whole day.
Right.
It's a part of a day,
Right.
which leads into another day, or the holy day, which is to be observed. Now, I guess you were going to to John, the 12th chapter,
Now, what I'm
to
gonna
talk about that time.
But what I'm going to do now is I would like for the viewing audience to see the events or the things that Yehoshua did so that it would give some support to the connection between himself and the initial lamb that was used at Pesach.
Right, well, this is why I read this, and then I thought you was going to John, the 12th chapter, which talked about leading up to that time.
Yeah, but what I also want to do is I want them to see time being used to help calculate, the exact time that he was what? That he was crucified.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Go ahead.
So this is important.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So in order to do that, let's look at Mark 11th chapter.
Okay.
Mark the 11th chapter. We'll begin with verse number 1. Verse number 1, Mark 11 says, Now when they drew near Jerusalem to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples. Yehoshua sent two of his disciples. And he said to them, Go into the village opposite you, and soon as you have entered it, you will find a coat tied on which no one has sat. Loose it and bring it. And if anyone says to you, Why are you doing this? Say, Yah has need of it. And immediately he will send it here. So they went their way and found the coat tied to a door outside on the street, and they loosed it. But some of those who stood there said to them, What are you doing, loosing the coat? And they spoke to them just as Yehoshua had commanded. So they let them go. Then they brought the coat to Yehoshua and threw their clothes on it, and he sat on it, and many spread their clothes on the road, and others cut down leafy branches. Sometimes we refer to this, or we think of as palms. Right. And this is one of the events that we talk about in churches that's called Palm Sunday. Right. Branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then those who went before and those who followed cried out, saying, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. Blessed is the kingdom of our father David, or David, that comes in the name of Yahweh. Hosanna in the highest. 11, it says, and Yehoshua went into Jerusalem, into the temple. All right, stop. We can stop right there. This event called Palm Sunday, or this event where Yehoshua is a sacrificial lamb, goes into the city. This is comparable to what we just read over here in Exodus, where it says that the lamb was to be what? Amongst the people who were going to kill it or slay it on the what? On the 10th day. Him being the sacrificial lamb, coming into Jerusalem, the city, came into the midst of the people. He came to the people who were going to what? To crucify him. So now we know that this took place on the 10th day of the first month. So when you read this, your Palm Sunday is on the 10th day of the first month. So when we understand the events that took place, this was the first month of the year, and it was on the 10th day. We now know that 4 days from this day, it says that the lamb in Pesach was to be killed. Being the what? Being the sacrificial lamb, Yehoshua, that tells us that he was going to die 4 days after what we call Palm Sunday.
Correct.
This gives us an event, and it gives us a time frame that connects us and helps us understand precisely when he was killed or was crucified or was sacrificed. All right. Now, we see the connection here. You can write that down. We understand that the crucifixion took place in the first month of the year, called Abib.
Right.
During the what? During the springtime.
Correct.
And this was the first of all the what? The new months. This was the first of the year. So the first of the year always came in during the springtime when the what? When the earth was to yield new life. That's why it was called Abib, again, like I mentioned earlier, because it means green ears.
Correct.
So now we can look at the crucifixion. We can kind of put a face on about when it took place.
Right.
It took place on the 14th day of the first month. You understand? And keep in mind what we mentioned when we talked about, when we said or gave the definitions of days, of a day, okay? Because that's going to play a key role here in understanding when he was crucified. All right. What I'd like to do at this time is give you an example of how the time was broken down. Like, for example, we refer to a 24-hour day, 12 hours of what? Of darkness, 12 hours of light, or 12 hours of morning. Evening, 12 hours, morning, 12 hours. We remember Yehoshua said 3 days and 3 nights.
Right.
All right. Now, just to give you a basic understanding, let me see how can I explain this to you. If you will write down on a piece of paper 6 o'clock dash 7 o'clock, and then to the side of that, list that as the first hour. Okay? Now, when I say 6 o'clock dash 7 o'clock, I'm referring to a new day beginning. So we're talking about when night begins. 6 o'clock dash 7 o'clock. That is 1 hour of time. That will be referred to as the first hour of the new day.
Right.
Right underneath the 6 o'clock dash 7 o'clock, you put 7 o'clock dash 8 o'clock. That is the second hour of the new day. And you continue that process. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you're going constantly down the side in the columns along each you say first hour, second hour, third hour, fourth hour. That's important because when it comes down to his crucifixion, the scripture says that from the 6th hour to the 9th hour, there was darkness.
That's correct.
Okay? So we know that when he was crucified, it was not in the what? Evening part of the day, but he was crucified in the what? The morning part of the day.
That's right.
So we have to go through the whole cycle of 12 hours. Then we have to start over when the sun begins to come up. Then it's now morning. So we start over again, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. By the time we get to the 6th hour, the 6th hour is what?
12.
Is 12 o'clock.
That's right.
And that's important. I hope I'm not losing anyone here because this is very important to understand exactly, because that's what I'm trying to give you, exactly when Yahushua was crucified. In seeing that, we see that each day has the 12 hours. 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of light. Now, in some specifics, we remember what it said in Exodus when it talked about the lamb being killed or the lamb being sacrificed. It said at twilight.
Right.
Now, the word twilight means two lights. Twi is the prefix, and it means two lights. That is the part of the day where the day is ending and a new day is about to come into. Exactly.
It.
But it is a time where it is dark, but it's also a time where it is light. So when it gets almost dark, but not completely dark, but yet it's still light, that part of the day is called twilight. And that time of the day begins at 3 o'clock in the morning, which that means when the sun is still up and it's 3 o'clock, from that point to 6 o'clock, 3 hours, that from 3 to 6 is called twilight. In the Hebrew, you would call it Erab, E-R-A-B.
Right.
Erab. So Erab is a certain part of the evening. Now, when it is total darkness, we say that's evening as well.
Right.
But when it is total darkness, we don't refer to that as evening, as Erab, but we refer to it as evening in what we call Lila.
That's it.
L-I-L-A-H. That's total darkness.
The absence of light.
Exactly. It is the absence of light. Exactly. That's important. And I want someone to kind of come in here to say a little something about this, because there's a lot more I want to say, and I want to put it in a way that the viewing audience will really get this and understand this. Because there's a lot to say about this, and it's going to take quite a bit of information to explain it to the viewing audience so they'll truly understand. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about when he died, when he resurrected, when he was raised, about going to the tomb, about what is preparation day, what that is. I mean, there's so much that we have been misinformed on here that we really need to go over all of these things. It's going to take quite a bit of looking at.
I want to go back over a couple of things you said.
All right.
Turn to John, the 12th chapter.
Okay.
Because again, as Elder was saying, this time of year, this kind of explains a little bit better. John 12, verse 1. It says, "Then 6 days before the Passover, Yehoshua came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, who had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead." Now, if we walk backwards, it says 6 days before Passover. We know that Passover came in on the 14th of Abib, or the first month.
Right.
So if we walk backwards 6 days, we come to what? The end of the 8th day going into the 9th day. I want to continue to read because this is important. Elder said that he came, that the lamb had to be taken on the 10th day. Everybody had to take the 10th day.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Okay. Let's continue to read. It says, they made him a supper, and Mary served, but Lazarus was one of those who sat at the table with him. Then Mary took a pound of costly oil of spikenard, anointed the feet of Yehoshua, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, who would betray him, said, "Why was this fragrance oil not sold for 300 dinars and given to the poor?" This he had said not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the money box, and he used to take what was put in it. But Yehoshua said, "Let her alone. She has kept this for the day of my burial. For the poor you have with you always, but me you do not have always." Now, what was happening? Correct. He was being anointed. He was being prepared. So let's go to the 12th verse of the same chapter. It says, "The next day a great multitude that had come to the feast, when they heard that Yehoshua was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him and cried out, 'Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh, the King of Israel.'" Now, this is the same thing that Elder read earlier when it talked about them going to get the donkey and bringing it to him. And here he comes riding in triumphantly on the colt. This is the 10th day. Remember, the 9th day they were there. He come in. It says the next day, which is the 10th day.
Okay, that's right, Elder. That's right.
So you have to walk this up
Right.
the same way that Elder was trying to bring this to you.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Now, we know that this day they had the palm leaves. This is your Palm Sunday. But now this is the 10th day of the month. So we know that 4 days from there, on the 4th day from there, the crucifixion was to take place. But they always want to read this thing about the Last Supper. But what was this Last Supper?
Supper.
Correct. It fits in with just what Elder was beginning to do with this time period. Because if you understand that on the 13th day of the month was when this took place, what Elder was beginning to explain to you, that 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? because all these things took place from that evening until the next evening when they put him in the sepulcher. Now, if you want to go through the time period, because now we're up to the 13th day.
Right, okay. All right. Okay. We're up to the 13th day at this point.
Right.
Now, I think this is the key in determining day, exact day of the week.
Correct.
See, we know 13th day.
Right.
The 13th day could be any day of the week.
Right.
But now we need to get down to the point of which day of the week.
Right.
So the best way to get to that is to start from the time of them going to the tomb and walking backwards.
Correct.
Because you can't go forward
Right.
because you don't have no ground to stand on
Right.
simply knowing it's the 13th day of the first month.
Correct.
Right. Or what day of the week?
Because you don't,
Right.
because it's not going to give you the day of the week.
Right.
So the way we gauge the day of the week is we have to go to Scripture, which mentions or talks about the first day of the week. In our culture is what? Is Sunday, as we say, Sunday, and then we walk backwards, and that helps us get what? The day of the week.
Correct.
So let's look at Luke. Elder, my Bible is different, but who has a Bible that refers to? I want to go to the one that refers to, or when it talks about them going, this is dawning toward the first day.
Okay.
I want to go over that one because mine doesn't have that in it. That may be Matthew.
Matthew 28. Mine says, in the end of the Sabbath, as it begins to dawn
Dawn toward the
Okay,
first day.
beautiful.
That's
Okay,
it.
we'll use that. All right, now, what we're going to do here is this. Obiyahu, you read from there because we need to walk from there going backwards.
16,
And I
11.
would like for Elder to explain what it truly means when you read what you're reading there, especially when it's reflective of the term dawning. So because a lot of people, here's a misnomer. We're going to kill this misnomer. We're going to kill this misunderstanding here. Okay.
Now, this is Matthew 28,
All right.
verse 1. This is the King James Bible, 1611 edition.
Right.
It says, in the end of the Sabbath.
Stop. It says, in the end of the Sabbath.
Right.
Now, we know by scripture definition, the Sabbath is defined as the what? The seventh day.
Right.
We can go back to Exodus 20 and see that.
Right.
That the seventh day is the Sabbath day.
Right.
So it says, in the end of the what? Of the Sabbath. So in our culture, the Sabbath or the seventh day is what? Is a Saturday.
Correct.
So in the end of the Saturday or the end of the Sabbath, which would now put us where? It will put us, going back to our definition of day, what comes first? In the end of this day,
That's right.
we know it's what? It's light out and the sun is going down.
Right.
So that's in the end of it.
Correct.
And the end of any day is what? Like we said before, it's twilight. The end of any day is twilight time.
Right. And another thing you must understand, that on the Sabbath day, in our culture, the children of Israel did not come out on the Sabbath.
Exactly. They didn't.
They did not come
They
out.
observed the Shabbat.
They observed the Shabbat.
Exactly.
So that when it says at the end of the Sabbath,
Right. Which is twilight time.
right,
It's
and
now
it says
right.
dawning
Right.
toward the first day of the week.
Right. Which makes sense.
Right,
Because why, Elder?
right, because the sun was going down.
Right. And the first day was just now coming in.
Was just coming in.
Exactly. Because most people think that when it says dawning
Dawning.
toward the first day, they think the sun is
was
going
coming
up. The sun, no, it's the exact opposite. The sun is going where, Elder?
It's going down.
It's going down because we're in the end of the Sabbath.
That's right.
And we're dawning toward the first day.
And that's when the children of Israel, that's when Mary came out.
Came out.
Right.
Exactly.
Because she couldn't come out before then.
Right. So our God here is what? Is the first day of the week. The ending of the what? The seventh day, but we're approaching the what? The beginning of the first day.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
It says, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week,
Correct.
came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre.
Right.
It says, and behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of Yah descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. Verse 3, his countenance was like lightning, and his remnant white as snow. And for fear of him, the keepers did shake and become as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the woman, fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Yahushua, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen.
Stop right there. Stop. It says, for he is risen. So now we know he had to rise somewhere between either the seventh day or the first day. Right? Because it says, but we have to remember though, we're going to eliminate the first day of the week. Why?
Right.
Because it said in the end of the Sabbath, dawning toward the first day. The first day has not reached here yet when this comment is made by the Malach to the women.
Right.
It ain't came yet. So that right there tells us that he rose not on the first day of the week, but he rose on the seventh day of the week.
Right.
And he rose on the what? Shabbat, or in the end of the Shabbat. Even though it was in the end of the Shabbat, it was still on the Shabbat.
That's right.
Now, so let's go backwards.
Right.
Let's go back to Matthew 12, where Yehoshua said that the Son of Man was going to be, or have the sign upon him as the sign of Jonah was.
Right.
In the belly of 3 days and 3 nights.
Correct.
Now let's go backwards.
Right.
Okay. From the end of the Shabbat, let's go backwards in time, and then we'll go to the morning. So all of that day was the morning of the Shabbat.
Right.
Okay.
That's 12 hours.
That's right. That's one
That's
day.
one day.
That's it.
Now, in going backwards, before the sun came up, or we go to the evening part of that day, we have 12 hours.
That's right. That's the night.
That's the night.
Right.
So that's one night.
That's right.
Now, the Sabbath is now taken care of. Now, in going backwards, now we're going to hit Friday, because we're going backwards now, remember. 12 hours of what? Day or light gives us 2 days and 1 night.
Correct.
Now, that before the sun comes up, we have 12 hours of evening, and that's what? 2 days and 2 nights. Now we're going to go backward. We're going to hit Thursday now.
Yep.
12 hours of day. Now we've got 3 days and 2 nights. Going backwards, we have 12 hours of evening. Now we've got 3 days and 3 nights. Now we're going backwards one more time. But we're not going to go all the way back. We're going to what? Wednesday now. And we're going to deal with the morning part of Wednesday.
Right.
So Wednesday had to be the day that he was crucified on.
Right. Correct.
And the law says that anyone who dies on a what? On a tree, it says that it must be buried before the sun goes down. Otherwise, he's considered a curse. So on Wednesday morning, he was crucified.
Correct.
Going to your chart here now, looking at the 6th hour, which begins from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, it says it became dark. So it was dark from the 6th hour to the 9th hour.
Right.
So that's 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, it was dark.
Right.
And then it says, going all the way back to what Exodus, when it says that the lamb was killed at twilight. Twilight is what? Beginning at 3 o'clock, like I mentioned to you before. So he what? He died at 3 o'clock, just as the sacrificial lamb died at what? Died at 3 o'clock, or twilight.
Right.
Now, another way for us to truly understand that this is when this all took place, and this is when he did resurrect. Now, remember we read where in Matthew 17 and Matthew 20, where it said that he would rise on the 3rd day?
Right.
You remember on the 3rd day?
Right.
On the 3rd day, right. That's, again, how we know that he did not rise when? Sunday evening. Okay? Because that would have been when? That would have been the 4th day.
Correct.
So when we say 3 days and 3 nights and going backwards, it lines directly up with him resurrecting on the 3rd day because it was still the Shabbat.
Correct.
And I know this is probably the way we're explaining is kind of like the best way we can do it here. I mean, obviously we could show you better if you were actually here, but and on paper, but when you're trying to do this like explain it like this, it becomes very difficult. But that is the way that it happened. When we talk about, or when we hear people talk about Yehoshua being raised on the 1st day of the week, they're a day late.
Yeah.
So, like Elder mentioned, how we didn't come out, you see, during the Shabbat. But you see, at the end of the Shabbat, they came.
That's right.
See, because it was in the end.
That's right. Shabbat was over.
Shabbat was over, but yet it was not completely over.
Yeah.
Yehoshua was gone.
Yes, he was.
Before that sun went down, and it was totally dark, going into the next day, which was actually the 4th day.
Right.
Yehoshua was gone already.
Yes, he was.
And we understand Yah's M.O. We understand that the Father has an M.O.
Yes,
he has a modus operandi. He works in certain ways that a lot of us don't realize. And if we understand that he has an M.O.,